Hello, my wonderful subscribers. I'm Captain Klutz, also known as Creep31, and today I will be showing you the first part of a video tutorial on how to make, things like this. How to do basic terraforming in third-party programs for Minecraft. Now, the first episode isn't really going to be that Minecraft specific. It's just going to be me going through a program called World Machine. Now, I think today I'm going to do this request down here by the Minester, which is to make some type of island surrounded by a giant rocky wall inside a lush flat landscape. So, I'm just going to load up my World Machine. Now, this program is freeware, but you can also pay for it to have greater resolutions, which you can find in here, which I will now introduce. Now, the resolution doesn't matter too much. You can still make a good map with the default resolution, but since I have the full version, I can increase it to something slightly larger to get a more detailed map. Now, let's start. This is the default template. Let's start from the blank. So, what you're going to need is, well, first of all, it looks very confusing, right? So what you're going to need is, you're going to want to go into your outputs, and you're going to want a height output, and you're also going to want an overlay view. The height output will allow you to save the final image, and the overlay view will allow you to keep track of it during the making process. Next, you're going to want to get a couple of advanced purlins. These basically generate noise. So if we focus on this, you can see that there's been a lot of noise generated, and that's what purlins are designed to do. The white bits are the higher bits, the green bits are the lower bits. As you can see, it already looks kind of like rolling hills, yeah? But they're not very good yet, and it certainly isn't the island we want. So, what we're going to do is, I'm just going to put some filters in as well, because, for example, if you Google sort of like a mountain, you will see that the mountains have terracing, and this terracing is caused by years of erosion. See, this mountain has quite nice terracing. This is caused by erosion over the years and strata settling to form layers in the mountain. As we can see here, this mountain has quite prolific terracing. So what we want is we're going to want that. So we're going to add the terracing filter, which if I can find it, which I cannot, which is a bit embarrassing. I'll find it in a second. And the second thing we're going to want is erosion, because erosion is also a natural process that happens throughout the world, so we're going to want that as well. I'll find it later. Anyway, what we're going to do, I've actually got a template, I think, with all of these in. And what we can see here is, I've forgotten one purlin for my template, 1 second, is you can connect different elements of this to other elements. So for example, I'm going to connect the output for this purlin, which looks like this, into my terrace mask. So that tells the terrace where to terrace, basically. High points on the map indicate high amounts of terracing, low points on the map indicate low amounts of terracing. I also forgot to explain this. This is completely optional. All that does is it highlights cliffs and beaches. Very useful. Visit the World Machine official website to download that on the forums. Now, what we need to do is, first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to add a layout generator. And in the layout generator, we'll see this. Now, this is a sort of empty map where we can draw our world. Now, we want to do all the work we're about to do inside this little square here. You use right click to move around, by the way. So, you'll see if I click circle, and draw a circle, it makes a small mound, yeah? So, I'm just going to do that a few times. And as you can see, some mounds are bigger than the others. This is because of the purlin. Now, since the purlin generates noise, it makes some bigger than the others. So if we look at the purlin, you can see that some areas are higher than others. And that's because the layout going into the purlin, well, basically, areas of highlighted on the layout tell the purlin where to apply its height and noise. So that allows me to do that. Now, if we go back into the layout generator, one second, I better explain this now. When you highlight something, you can press F on your keyboard to highlight what it looks like. This is how I'm switching between all the views. You'll tend to want to stick with overlay view. Oh, always press that by accident. So as you can see, I've gone a bit outside my world limit, but that's fine because you can go into World Commands, Project World Parameters, and increase the size of your world very easily. Oh. And I'm just going to want to change these. And as you can see, that's moved the map around so that I can have the entire island in my sights, as it were. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these and then click on this pencil, which allows me to change every single one. And what I'm going to do is increase the fall off distance, which increases how far it does what it says on the tin. It increases how far they fall off. And I'm also going to and you can choose what curve you want. I just tend to stick with the default linear curve. And you can also set how broken up the shapes you want to be. I tend to stick with default for that. And after doing that, you want to go and click Use Breakup, which causes fractal breakup, which is very useful for creating realistic landscape. And I'm just going to edit these settings a bit. You can see the differences it makes. So, but if you remember, my request said to have a sort of spiky outside of the island with a flatter section inside. So what I'm going to do then is, one second, just completing the cycle, is I want to make this spiky, yeah? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here, I'm going to go into my purlin, which you can access from this bottom left. I'm going to go into my purlin, and then I'm going to change the feature scale, the steepness, and the persistence, and the elevation center. Now these might not mean a lot, but I'll go through them one by one. Feature scale denotes how big the noise is. So if we look at the preview here or here, we can see what effect this is having. So making it smaller makes the undulations smaller in scale. Making it larger makes them very big. So I want a really rough out exterior, so I'm going to turn this to something quite small. And already you can see that's quite spiky. Steepness denotes how quickly the cliffs sort of fall off. I want that to be quite high. And elevation center basically sets the base value. I want that to be reasonably high, because if it was low, it would be spiked. If it's really high, they're all the same height. I want it to be reasonably high, sort of about there. And already you can see that's looking alright. But if you zoom in, you can't really see much. It's really not detailed, and that's where this button up here comes into play. When you click this, it will build the world for you at your desired resolution, and suddenly you can see it in a lot more detail. And you can see, yeah, that's actually starting to look like a fairly realistic landscape. Next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to fine-tune the terrace and the erosion. So I'm going to just focus on this purlin. Remember, press F to focus. I'm going to make this smaller because I want my terracing to be at really sort of intermittent intervals. And making it steep allows a massive difference between different terraces. Now I'm just going to use one of the starting settings, which I think I like is not dense pack. I think it's plateau is one of the best ones. So if we go back into the 3D view, and that's the wrong one, I forgot to lock it back to this, press F, there we go. And then we build it again. You can either press a green button or press Control B. I like pressing Control B because I use a keyboard as well. We can see that has had a visible effect on the landscape. Next thing I want to do is, first of all, oh, I accidentally saved it. Never mind, I can make another template. First thing I want to do is just expand it a bit so I have a bit more to see. And change these so I have a bit more room to work with. There we go, that's better. Oh, nearly better. There we go. And I'm going to go and double click on this thing, which is erosion. Now, erosion is incredibly important, as you probably know, things erode because of rain and sea and, well, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but yeah. So we're going to go into erosion, and what I really like to do is dramatically increase the erosion strength. So, and if we have a look at what difference that's made, suddenly you've got all this sedimentary deposit down at the bottom of the hills, and you've got all these channels which are like rivers flowing down into the sea. I'm actually going to increase that a bit more. So here we go, and we've got this, and now we've finally got this nice spiky outside landscape with somewhere where we can put a little paradise, oasis in the middle. And that was really simple and really easy, I think you'll agree. So, pretty good for a freeware program. The last thing you have to do when building your world is you have to go and export it. You have to save it as an image. So to do that, you go back to this little guy and you double click him and you choose your export format. I use PNG because it's a lossless. And then you set its output name. And then click Write Output to Disk, and that will write it for you. And if we go into my files, then we can see, hopefully, yeah, there it is, my tutorial. It's a black and white height map. We can actually open this and have a peek at it. And then I'll explain some of these other things. Now, for those people starting out, I should probably explain what a mask is and how it works. So yeah, you can see there's the dark patch in the middle where it's low, and then you've got these white jaggedy peaks. So that's worked fine. I'm happy with that. A mask, right, let's start at the basics. You've got your inputs and your outputs. Your outputs are basically can range from black to white, white being the highest, black being the lowest. So if we look on this, you can see that there's a lot of white around here in this circle, and the brown is low. So what's that saying is, well, it depends on what it goes into. So it's going from here into something called the mask input. And what a mask is basically a mask tells the next function where to work. So, as you can see, the mask has told the purlin to work only in this area, only in the ring. Like, if we go back into here, hold on. I lost myself. Well, you can see it's still in the ring that we denoted in the layout generator, and there's nothing out here where you would expect noise. I can show this actually by deleting this wire, And then going back into here, hopefully. And you should be able to see it's applied noise everywhere else together with the sort of layout I've done. But if we put into mask, it sort of prevents that. It's sort of only limited to the places we've put in on the layout generator. Now, you can see I've done the same thing here, but instead of using a fixed layout, I've used noise and put it into the terrace. So the terrace is basically randomized, and then the terrace goes straight into erosion, and the erosion goes straight into my output. I don't do anything else between there and there. I don't sort of set any more masks. I don't put a mask in for erosion because I want erosion to be everywhere, and you need nothing else before the outputs unless you're using other erosion types. So, for example, you can do coastal erosion, which hopefully I can demonstrate. So if we remove these wires, then I should be able to show you. I can use coastal erosion as well. For example, have I connected that back? Yeah, I have. Okay, good. Oops. And yeah, you can see that's applied small amounts of coastal erosion, not a huge amount. It's because I haven't tweaked with the settings very much. But if we build the world again, we should be able to see that. Yeah, there we go. I applied cliffs, and now we've got more prominent cliffs along the entirety of the island. So yeah, feel free to add whatever you want. Hopefully you understand the very basics of this program at least. If you want more detail, I can probably go into that. But those are the very basics to creating the startings of your island. Next tutorial will be about World Painter, and then finally about hopping into the game and fixing it up with World Edit and MC Edit. Okay, thank you for watching.